If you were born in the early 2000s, you've no doubt heard of Club Penguin. Club Penguin was an online browser game owned by everyone's favorite monopoly, Disney. It was an MMO made for kids, where you could play minigames, dress up your penguin, decorate your igloo, and even adopt your own pet. And it very quickly became one of the most popular games on the internet.
Play games, make friends, join the community, and welcome the newest addition to the Disney family, Club Penguin.
When I look back on Club Penguin, it's hard to tell what made it so popular. Was it just a convenient game to play in school? Or was it something that was genuinely fun? Flash games were at their peak around this time, so what made this one stand out in particular? And there's really only one way to answer that question: to play it. Logging on, I was surprised to see so many people still playing this game, but as I explored, I realized why. There is a lot of content, even more than when I used to play it. And the reason for this is because the original game wasn't completely free. You had to pay a membership fee if you wanted the full experience. And around this time, there were tons of other MMOs for kids. Toontown, Wizard 101, Neopets, Moshi Monsters, all of which were entirely free. So obviously, to get kids to want to pay for their game, they needed what these other games didn't have: a shitload of content. The main activities are the minigames. There's over 40 minigames throughout the island, most of which are actually really fun. I said most. Some of my favorites were ice fishing, bean counters, and card jitsu. I mean, card jitsu is literally an entire Pokemon-like card game where you become a ninja and work your way up by defeating opponents to become a black belt. The game was so popular, it even got its own real-life trading cards, which some people bought, I guess. Most of the minigames are just simple concepts of games that are reskinned in a Club Penguin way, but for what it's worth, they're good enough. Several of these minigames took place on the Iceberg, which was a place on the map where people would go to meet other players. Something big would happen here later, but more on that later. By playing the minigames, you would win coins, and coins are the gateway to the real fun of Club Penguin: buying useless shit for your penguin. If there was something you wanted in Club Penguin, chances are you could buy it. The game had practically everything. I mean everything. There were seemingly unlimited clothes, a pet shop where you could adopt a Puffle, which was just a little dude that follows you around, igloo decorations, you could become a secret agent, and tons of other things. It was this type of dedication for the game that made it so popular in the first place. It felt like the developers really cared and just wanted their fan base to have fun with the game. Don't get me wrong, it had its problems, but the bad was almost incomparable to the good, and I have a lot of respect for the developers that made the game feel fresh and new every time I logged on. By 2009, it seemed like Club Penguin was almost too big to fail. It received its own mobile apps, books, DS and Wii game spin-offs, and it reached over 200 million registered users. It continued to grow year after year, with new events and updates coming out almost weekly. Then 2014 happened, and the player base started declining, fast, mainly because kids originally playing the game all grew up, and the MMO trend was slowly fading away. And it wasn't getting nearly as many updates either, because developers were working on something called Project Super Secret. After a couple years of its decline, Disney announced something that would bring millions back to Club Penguin one final time. You know how people say everyone remembers where they were on 9/11? Well, likewise, everyone should remember where they were when Disney announced that on March 29th, 2017, Club Penguin would be permanently shut down. Millions flooded the servers to say goodbye to the game that defined their early internet experiences, or just to see how fast they could get banned. But it was mine and many others' first realization that life is nothing but disappointments, and everything you love will eventually die. Remember that iceberg I mentioned earlier? Well, basically, there was a rumor spread online that if you got enough penguins drilling on one side of the iceberg, it would tip over. People tried for years and years with no success and had practically given up on it. But I guess as a final farewell to the game, during the last couple days, the developers added it. If the requirements were met, the iceberg would tip and a dance floor would appear. In the center, a plaque read, "Together we can build an island, create a community, change the world, and even tip an iceberg." And with that, the world that so many grew up in would be deleted in an instant. Gone because they weren't making as much money as they once were. There was nothing these penguins could do to stop their world from ending, because in the end, they were worthless. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? And just like that, Club Penguin was gone forever. Kind of. Shortly after, Disney announced that the series wasn't over, and that Club Penguin would receive a sequel. Great! Oh wait, a mobile game. Club Penguin Island. If there's one phrase that describes this game, it's kids are dumb, they'll buy anything. Or at least that's what Disney thought. Now, before I endlessly shit on this game, let's talk about the things I like about it. I mean, I like the design of the penguins more than the original, and that's about it. So let's get to the bad. First of all, literally everything is locked behind a membership fee. Sure, Club Penguin also did this, but not nearly as much. You could still enjoy the game without one. But in Club Penguin Island, they don't even let you play games, buy clothes, or even eat without one. There's nothing inherently wrong with a membership. I get it, you gotta feed the workers somehow, but when even the most basic of features are locked behind one, it's hard to defend that. And don't even get me started on the leveling system in the game. Like, who thought it was a good idea to have a rank system in a game about socializing? That's like the equivalent of leveling up when you go to fucking church. And all of the fun stuff was locked behind higher levels that no one was getting to because there was nothing fun for the lower levels to even justify playing. But all of that is almost minor compared to the fact that they didn't even add puffles to the game. Puffles were pretty much just as, if not more important than the penguins in the original game. Everyone loved them, and not having them at launch just goes to show how out of touch they really were with what the players liked about the original. But the real reason Club Penguin Island failed as badly as it did wasn't because people didn't want a new Club Penguin game. It's that it was a completely different game from the one people already knew and liked. If they added some defining features to differentiate it from the original, that would be fine. But to completely reroute from it and not even keep the original open makes me sad. Like, look at Webkinz, for example. Everybody loved Webkinz, but Gans wanted to make another game. So what did they do? They made another game and kept the original up and running. I wish Disney would have done this too, but I guess that's asking too much of a billion-dollar company. Clearly, the mobile route wasn't working as well as they originally thought it would, and they ported it to PC 8 months later, when people had already given up on this game. And after only about a year, it was announced that Club Penguin Island would be shutting down too. I don't think anyone was really surprised by it, but I still felt bad for the developers who were told they would have jobs for at least a couple more years, only to have it taken away weeks later. And that marks the official end of the Club Penguin series. But it's not a completely terrible ending, because recently, 4 fans took it upon themselves to preserve the original game and made Club Penguin Rewritten, which is just the old game completely free. And this is what I used for the majority of this video. But this just goes to show that nothing is forever, and one day your favorite corner of the internet might not be there. If it weren't for fans, Club Penguin would have been lost to time. So from me and many others, thank you. Thank you for preserving a game that many consider an internet landmark of the early 2000s. A game that Disney was willing to just throw away simply because they thought their shitty mobile game could replace it. Club Penguin was definitely needing an upgrade, but the way they went about it was all wrong and lacked what people liked so much about the original. I guess what I'm trying to say is, fuck you, Disney.